Okay, let's try a little thought experiment. Imagine you wake up tomorrow feeling totally fine, normal, and then a nurse comes in and hands you, get this, 48 different prescription pills. What do you think happens next? And I don't mean 48 vitamins, right? These are actual pharmaceuticals. 48 of them, my guess, you'd probably be calling poison control on yourself. I mean, that amount of chemicals has got to overload a healthy person's system, surely.
Exactly. And that's the really shocking part. 48 isn't some wild hypothetical. It is, believe it or not, the average number of meds a patient is taking in quite a few assisted living centers here in the U.S.
The average? Seriously, when I first heard that, I thought, no way, it must be a mistake. Maybe like 6, 10 tops. But 48 is standard. That sounds less like healthcare and more like, I don't know, some kind of chemical management program.
It's real data.
Yeah.
And it's so stark, it actually shocked the people compiling it. I actually heard this story about a tech exec, usually very stoic, but he saw the data file for one resident. 91 medications, 91. And apparently he just got emotional. Seeing numbers in the 50s or 60s was one thing, but 91 just, it hit differently. So yeah, 48 is just the starting point.
Wow. Okay, let's really dig into this then. This deep dive, it's all about this crisis, really.
Yeah.
Polypharmacy, which for anyone listening who might not know, just means using multiple drugs at the same time for different conditions. And our goal here is to figure out how a system allows this average to even exist, because it seems to totally ignore the most basic question, right? Which is, what are you actually eating? Okay, forget the shock of the number 48 for a second. Let's think practicalities. How does managing a list that long actually work day to day? What does that do to the caregiving?
Oh, it's chaos. Absolute chaos for the staff. I mean, picture it. You're a caregiver, probably stretched thin already, maybe looking after, 5, 10, even 15 residents. And one of them has a list of 91 different things you need to administer. Some are daily, sure, but others might be Monday, Wednesday, Friday only. This one's with food, that one's on an empty stomach, another needs crushing. The sheer complexity, it practically guarantees mistakes will happen. It's mind-blowing that this is a reality on the front lines.
And the mix itself, when you actually look at what those pills often are for just one person, you've got blood pressure meds, statins for cholesterol, maybe insulin, probably several antidepressants, then maybe something for nausea, stool softeners, always the stool softeners, anti-seizure meds, maybe something for prostate issues. It's a laundry list. Honestly, if a healthy person like you or me took just that typical mix, our livers would probably wave a white flag by dinner time. But here's the kicker, right? Almost every single one of those conditions, high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, even depression, maybe some dementias, they often point back to the same root cause. It's metabolic dysfunction, often driven by, insulin resistance from what we eat.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's the fascinating and frustrating part. The system is practically built to chase symptoms. So pill A handles the blood pressure. Okay. But maybe pill A causes, say, digestive issues, side effect B. So the doc prescribes pill C, the stool softener you mentioned, but maybe pill C messes with how you absorb something else, so now you need pill D. It's this spiral. You're just treating the consequences of the last treatment, never getting to the root cause. You're masking things, not fixing health.
So if the underlying health is that compromised, who's bearing the brunt of this? Which groups are really caught in this medication churn? Because it gets even heavier when you consider who these patients often are.
Absolutely. You have to remember, something like 42% of residents in U.S. assisted living facilities are dealing with dementia. And the cost of dementia care over a lifetime, it's staggering. We're talking anywhere from maybe $800,000 up to $1.5 million per person. So you combine huge costs, extreme vulnerability, and this underlying metabolic mess.
Yeah,
for the problem runs deep, very deep.
And what food is fueling this situation for these incredibly vulnerable people? It's the standard institutional menu, isn't it? Ultra-processed stuff. Same kind of food you find in, nursing homes, hospitals, schools, even prisons. Calorie-dense, nutrient-poor.
And that leads us right to the systemic blind spot. Compliance. That's the name of the game in these places. Care is medically focused on existing conditions. What does that mean in practice? It means ticking boxes. They track the meds meticulously because they have to for regulations, but proactive health. Thinking about diet, like low carb or cutting sugar. Nope, not required, not tracked. And these regulations, they tie back to state and federal guidelines, which, incredibly, still lean on those old 1970s FDA food guidelines. High carb, low fat. Those are the standards used by the CDC, by state health departments, when they approve food contracts for millions of institutional meals. To win those bids, you got to meet cost targets and those outdated guidelines. And the cheapest way, ultra-processed, shelf-stable, industrial food products.
Wow. So the system basically mandates serving the cheapest food that meets these ancient rules. And that junk food then drives the metabolic problems,
Yeah.
which then requires the 48 average medications to manage the symptoms, which satisfies compliance. It's like this perfect self-perpetuating cycle of creating and managing illness, self-licking ice cream cone of disease, as you said. And then you hear members of the actual dietary guideline committee saying things like, there's no hard evidence ultra-processed foods are harmful, seriously.
Yeah, that statement. It feels almost like willful ignorance, doesn't it?
It really does. You just want to shout, haven't we been running a giant 50-year experiment on the entire country since the 70s? We have decades of data showing health declining. What more evidence do they need than an average of 48 pills per resident?
Well, the issue is that modern medicine is fundamentally structured around drugs and procedures. Lifestyle interventions, diet, they're treated as completely separate fields. That's why this medication cycle is so hard to break.
But sometimes someone does break it.
Right.
There are these rare places, these positive outliers, where they actually ditch the standard processed stuff and focus on real food, low-carb, nutrient-dense diets.
Yes, and when that focus shifts to what people are eating, the results can be, well, frankly, amazing. In an industry where the number of prescriptions almost only ever goes up, these places are seeing huge drops. It's like a breath of fresh air, honestly.
Yeah, we came across this one specific example, just a perfect illustration, in a facility that made this switch to real food. There was a resident who started with 47 prescribed meds back in October 2023. By July 2024, they were down to just 25 medications.
That's nearly half. A 47% decrease in less than a year. That's almost unheard of.
Yeah.
But it's not just the pill count, right? It's the other things, too. Better mobility, clearer thinking, less need for physical restraints. Things that actually improve quality of life.
And the ultimate win isn't just fewer pills, it's actually getting your life back. We heard about 9 people from facilities like this who improved so much they could actually move back home. They didn't need assisted care anymore. That completely flips the script, doesn't it? From just maintaining people in a facility to actually getting them healthy enough to leave.
Think about that one man, the one tracked in the system. Now he's living independently again, in his own apartment, with his dog, taking daily walks. That's a life given back. Independence restored. All, fundamentally, by changing the food.
Okay, so if the solution seems this straightforward, change the food, see incredible results, why isn't this the standard everywhere? Why isn't there a huge push to make every assisted living center do this?
Well, the short answer. It's structural. It boils down to what's called the liability trap.
The liability trap. Okay, unpack that for us. What are the twisted incentives here?
It's like this. A doctor will basically never get sued for not suggesting a diet change. It's just not part of the required standard of care. So, not recommending it. Zero risk. But if that same doctor decides to deprescribe a drug, let's say a common statin, and then the patient unfortunately has a heart attack or stroke, suddenly that doctor is wide open to a massive lawsuit for deviating from the standard pharmaceutical approach.
So wait, keep the patient on the drug, something bad happens, the doctor followed protocol, they're covered. Take the patient off the drug, they get better, the doctor gets, well, maybe a thank you, but takes on risk. Take them off the drug, something bad happens. Lawsuit. The incentives are completely backwards.
Exactly. The system protects managing symptoms with drugs, but it actively discourages, or at least doesn't reward, addressing root causes through lifestyle, especially if it involves removing medication. And this bias, this focus purely on meds, it's even built into the technology they use every day.
You mean like the software they use to run these places?
Yeah, precisely. That software is excellent at making sure facilities comply with regulations, tracking meds, dosages, times. It does that perfectly. But what do the regulations not require tracking? Diet, nutrition, therapeutic food plans. It's just not on the checklist, so the software developers focus on what's mandated, which is medication management.
So compliance drives the tech, and compliance ignores food. The tools themselves end up reinforcing the pill-centric approach.
It leads you to one conclusion, really. The current system is this closed loop. You eat the ultra-processed food because it's cheap and meets outdated guidelines. That food makes you sick. The sickness requires medication to manage the symptoms for compliance. The medication causes side effects, requiring more medication, all while the root cause, the food, is ignored.
So this whole deep dive shows that this seemingly crazy scenario, the average person on 48 pills, isn't just some random medical anomaly. It's actually a direct result of bad food policy and misplaced institutional priorities.
And if this level of medication overuse is the average for some of our most vulnerable people, and if the potential solution involves something as fundamental as real food, Well, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? It leaves us with this final question for you to think about. How many other problems, how many other symptoms in our modern world are just being papered over with pills because we're not asking that basic question, what are we eating?